Ready? If you don't know how FlashChat works, I post 12 questions, one question every 5 minutes for an hour, where we discuss the latest episode of The Flash, and I will read my questions out loud and I will give you my thoughts. I do this in lieu of a written review because I really don't have time to write those reviews anymore. So I will read my questions and give you my thoughts, and then I will shout you out and read your Twitter handle and read what you have to say. Now remember, and hey to everybody that's watching me live on Facebook, what's up? Remember that if you want to join in, you can join in on Twitter. Use the hashtag FlashChat, and you'll see all the questions as they come through. Okay? All right. Time to get started. Question number one. Question number one is, how many of you noticed with that cloud opening that it was a shout-out throwback to season one? Now, if you know anything about the first season of The Flash, it's generally regarded as the best season to date, and everything about the show that made us fall in love with the show happened in the first season of The Flash. So one of the things that happened in the pilot, and one of the things that Barry did more than once, was that we would be zooming through the clouds and Barry would be talking about the impossible. And then we would cut to a shot of him zooming through the city and said, hey, wait, that's me. No, there's me. There I go. That's me too. That definitely happened in the pilot. And so I noticed, because this episode was heavily filled with shout-outs to season one, but I noticed that one in particular, that we were going through the clouds in the opening, because I was wondering what was the significance of doing that. And then I realized it was a shout-out to that incredible first season. And then after that, of course, we zoom in on Barry trying to find the graves of his parents. Now, I'm going to deal with that a little bit later. Van Joe, what's up? Germany's calling. I wish I could speak German. I know you don't understand me. You will bring me some viewers. Thank you. I appreciate that, Van. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. So, how do you say thank you in German? Dankeschön. Thank you so much. So that was really kind of clearly obvious as to, in terms of that's what was going on with that shout out. And so then Barry's trying to find his parents. Now, if you know anything about Barry Allen on this show, you know that it was the death of his mother and then the unfortunate subsequent death of his father. But really the death of his mother that really has driven him from the beginning. So everything that we understand about Barry, they made Barry a little bit more like Bruce Wayne, and they made the Flashpoint Barry, where his mom had to die for him to become the Flash and for reality to be normal. And so this Barry carries that same kind of weight. So even though the Flash is a lighthearted, fun character, this particular Barry carries that heaviness in his heart all the time because he misses his mom something awful, which is understandable, okay, because she was his life and he was his. Then she got killed by Reverse Flash, spoiler alert for the first season. She got killed by Reverse Flash, but Barry's dad got blamed and jailed for the crime, okay, and obviously he didn't commit it. So anyway, yeah, so I thought that was really something. I thought they were maybe trying to, it makes sense to go through the clouds and then zoom in on Barry with flowers. They're just trying to put on those graves because his parents and his mom in particular meant everything to him, okay? It's why he does what he does, okay? Or at least one of the foundational reasons. So let me read your answers, okay? Question one, how many of you noticed with that cloud opening that it was a shout-out throwback to season one? Chris Colfer fan of old shows, says, I noticed it. Polly writes things. P_Makor says, the first watch I didn't even notice it, but the second watch I did. I was hoping it was a throwback. And I'm going to say, wait a minute, let me get all my hashtags lined up. And I'm going to say to Polly, Yes, it made sense to me. Hey, whoa, thank you for everybody that's watching me live on Facebook. Thank you, Van Joe, Dr. Shin. I wish I'd spoke more German. But thank you so much for everybody that's watching me live. It made sense to then zoom in on Barry looking for his parents' graves because they are his whole motivation, especially his mom. There's another throwback with Grodd later when Grodd says speed feels impossible. That's season 1, Barry Allen. I'm going to say that's pure season 1, Barry Allen. Okay, I want to say hi again, everybody that's watching me live on Facebook. We're talking about the latest episode of The Flash on the CW. So thank you for joining me. And the conversation is going on Twitter. So if you want to find us on Twitter, I'm at DT2 Comics Chat, or you can use the hashtag FlashChat, and you can join right in the conversation, okay? Thank you again, Van Joe. Okay. All right. So, of course, Twitter is acting funny, but whatever. I can work around that. They are his whole motivation. That's right. I'm still talking to Polly, talking about Barry's motivation. Okay, so as always, you run out of room on your tweet, so you kind of have to truncate what you're saying. Okay? Still on question 1. Okay, so just got 2 answers on that. All right, let's bounce over then to question 2. Question 2 is, so now that we know for sure that Evil Eva and Mirror Iris are linked, what do you think is their end game? Now, I'm jumping a little bit ahead in terms of what happens in the episode, but at the end of the episode, we saw that Eva stuck her arms out of the mirror, and those arms got burned, but that was just a ploy to make real Iris believe in her. But Mirror Twin Iris says, why are you hurting us? So maybe she's a projection. She's obviously connected to Eva in some way. So I want to know what you think their end game is. I still say, like I said last week, I think that their end game is pulling people out of the mirror world and into the real world. And I think they want to replace people in the real world with mirror twins for whatever reason. Okay, so let's see what you guys have to say about that. Polly says, I think Mirror Iris is needed to complete the scheme of Eva, who I'm pretty sure does want out of the mirror. I think she wants reality switched and everyone who did her wrong in the mirror and herself out. I'm going to say to that, acting crazy. I'm going to say to Polly saying to that I think that's a perfect summation of what's happening. I think that's a perfect summation of what's happening. She wants revenge, she wants replacement, and she wants to be real. All of that makes sense for a mirror person. I also think she wants recognition for her genius, because that's what I think is going on with Eva McCulloch. I think that she's just furious and enraged because she didn't get the recognition that she thought she deserved for all of her work in discovering the mirror dimension and all of her technology. I think that Eva maybe feels shortchanged or overshadowed by her husband or just not recognized. So I think that part of her scheme is she wants to get that recognition. She wants someone to acknowledge and honor what she did in terms of putting the mirror tech together. Okay? Chris Kofer fan says, to be honest, I'm not sure. Maybe for Evil Eva to escape from the mirror and mirror Iris to permanently take Iris's place. I'm going to say, yes, indeed, agree with all of that. Okay. So Eva probably would have gotten out by herself already. But somehow she needs Iris there, or else I think she could have pulled it off already. Or maybe it's because she needs to release someone in the real world that's from the mirror world, so that's why she had to do the switch. But, you know, with her sticking her hands out and those hands getting burnt, there's some type of negative reaction, you know, for someone coming out of the mirror, and that is obviously what she's trying to overcome. Okay? So, at least that's what makes sense to me. Okay, let's see if we got any more answers here. Okay, Polly, we're still on question 2. Polly says, I have a feeling recognition for her genius is the whole reason why behind wanting out, and those that did her wrong switch places with her. A whole bunch of Evas too, if she replaces a body taken, would make the world better for her too. And to that I'm going to say, so then we'd be getting into Agent Smith territory from the Matrix Revolutions. If you remember, in the Matrix Revolutions, if you saw the Matrix trilogy, in that third movie, there were so many Smiths, okay, and Smith had replaced everybody in the Matrix, which still doesn't make any sense to me to this day. I don't understand why that was balanced, or he's his counterpart, or he's the opposite of Neo, but all of a sudden he can jump in the pods and the mines and overtake everyone in the I wasn't with that. But anyway, he seemed like he wanted to get out and get out into the real world, and he did get out through Kane a couple times. So, you know, that's Agent Smith territory if what Eva's trying to do is get out and become tangible again and get all the other people out. But if she wants to replace people with copies of herself, you know, once again, that's just pure ego, but that's probably what's going on. Yes, it's very blatant. I'm still answering question 1 on this one. It's very blatant in terms of the shout-out throwback to season 1 with the zooming through the clouds, but we already answered that. Okay? Okay. All right. All right. Question number 3. What did you think of Team Flash now including Camilla and Diet Darwin Chester? Now, when I say Diet Darwin, I'm talking about Darwin from X-Men First Class, because he reminds me so much of him. Okay, and the way Darwin died in X-Men First Class was just ridiculous. His whole power was his ability to adapt, and then he can't adapt to a bomb. It was ridiculous. But anyway, so what did you think of Team Flash now including Camilla and Diet Darwin Chester? It sure felt weird to me. So, I mean, you know, it was just kind of bizarre. Remember that I told you I think that this show is already overcrowded? So, I mean, I don't think they need to be adding any more characters. I don't know why they're doing that. Maybe the principal actors want a break, or maybe the principal actors are off doing other projects, because Cisco hasn't been around for several episodes. But, you know, they said this episode he was coming back. But, I mean, it just felt really weird, and here's the reason why. Because there's really no training. Okay, remember that Caitlin's a doctor, Cisco's an engineer and an inventor. Remember that Wells was a doctor, Ronnie was a PhD. All these people, they had training in their field. So the original Star Labs crew made sense for them to be there. But you add Camilla. Camilla's a photographer. So what does she know about science or engineering or helping Barry in the field or Now Chester, he invented black holes and all that. But he is just way too hyper and way too immature and way too annoying for my taste, for him to be on the comm. And then he found out Barry was a Flash, and I'm like, ugh. So I just don't like him. So, just to make it plain, I just don't like him. Okay? Okay, Big Sal, Caesar's Wolfpack says, Camilla I've come around to. The Chester guy was just too over the top and annoying for me. Was generic season 1 Cisco in my opinion. And I'm going to say, agree completely on Chester. He's just too hyper, too fanboy all the time. All the time, too eager to get involved and too hard on himself for failure. Cisco didn't even take it to those levels because he didn't. He really didn't. But Chester just gets on my nerves. Just no bones about that. Chris Kofer fan says, I'm not sure what I think about it. It does seem a bit weird, but it's possible I could change my mind during future episodes. Understood. Polly says, it feels like they're replacing the jobs of two people that are already there. Look at their personalities too. Camilla is a lot like Snow, and Chester's a lot like season 1 Cisco. I don't think we need this replacement. Seems to be the theme this season. And I'm going to say, very accurate. I think they are trying to simultaneously use nostalgia while ingratiating new characters to us. But it's not going to work, just like it didn't with Star Wars. Because they tried to do the same thing with Star Wars and it didn't work. I don't care about Camilla, and I can't stand Chester. Okay, just can't stand him. So I think that Polly's right here. I think they're trying to introduce these new characters in the same functions as characters we already have. Since for some reason there's like no more Caitlin, there's just Frost. I don't know why. Did Danielle want that, or did the other writers want that? That's more time in hair and makeup for her. I mean, did she want to be Frost all the time, or did they want her to be Frost all the time? I'm actually going to throw that out there. I'm going to say also, why is there no more Caitlin? Did Danielle want to be Frost all the time? Or did they want her to be Frost all the time? Maybe Caitlin's arc is done. Maybe it's just done, or maybe they don't know what else to do with her. Sometimes you can hit a point in writing where characters have run their course, or the writing team has run their course with that character, like they don't know what else to do with it. That's entirely possible. So I keep thinking I'm going to rewatch the series again from the start, but whatever happened to Hartley? I'm going to say that's actually the next question. Jump on in on question 4. Okay, so that was JLA Avenger asking whatever happened to Hartley, and I'm actually going to deal with that in the next question. But let me be sure I got all the answers to question 3. Team Flash, now including Camilla and Chester. Me personally, don't care about Camilla. I don't necessarily think she's a bad character, but she's not a necessary character. And I want to remind you that she is now there and Cisco is not. Okay, she was introduced as an extraneous character, and then she started going out with Cisco. She became Cisco's girlfriend, and now Cisco's gone and she's there. Why? Okay, so maybe just to make her be a part of Team Citizen, maybe they really wanted to introduce that. Iris, Allegra, Camilla, and Cecile. Maybe they really wanted to establish that. I don't know, but it doesn't. Hey there everyone, David Taylor 2 here. I am so excited about the launch of the Nephilim Wars. This comic is a part of my War in Heaven series, which includes novels, coloring books, and an RPG. Nephilim are half-human, half-angel hybrids, where their dads are from heaven, but their moms are from earth. My comic, The Nephilim Wars, is set at the end of the 30th century, and the Nephilim are breeding again, and not just humans. Yikes! It says to me that Camilla is there and Cisco is not. Okay, Ashley, Ash Yes Please says, I don't mind the characters, but I hate that they're essentially stand-ins. Since we're writing Cisco out, we need Chester, but I'd rather have Cisco. With Camilla, it's the Iris West situation all over again. She doesn't have any skill warranting her to be there so much. And I'm going to say that's exactly what I just said on the live stream. There is no training for her to be there. She's a photographer. So what would she know about anything in Star Labs? What would Camilla know? Okay? What would Camilla know about any of the advanced engineering, advanced technology, advanced chemistry, advanced biology that the original Team Flash has? What does Camilla know about? I'm not saying she's dumb or stupid, don't misunderstand me, but she's a photographer, so her background, her education, her experience is not in the things that someone on the comm would need while working with Barry in the field. Or in an emergency situation, what could Camilla do? Okay? So I guess they really are writing Cisco out. And I'm going to actually say that to you. Are they for sure writing Cisco out? Is it over for him? Because maybe Carlos is tired of playing Cisco, but Cisco is one of the best original characters. And when I say original, of course, vibe comes from the comics. But, you know, the way Carlos has brought him to life on The Flash is incredible. So he's the last person we would want to see go. Last person I want to see go. Okay? Okay, Big Sal said, but I did like the episode. Still makes me want just one Flash season where Grodd is the main opposition. If they ever decide to trim that season down to 14 to 16 episodes so that the show can afford 10 to 12 episodes creating CGI for Grodd, we need more Grodd. And I'm going to say, I agree. He is still one of Flash's best rogues, both in the comics and on the show. I agree with that completely. Grodd is an incredible villain, and we need to see more of him. And so even if that means a smaller season, I would take it just to have more of Grodd. Seriously. Okay, jumping on to the next question. The next question is, question 4. Okay, I love the Pied Piper in the comics. This version I'm still iffy about. Do you like Hartley as a villain? So if you remember that pre-crisis, Hartley and Flash had made up and they'd actually become allies. Now, post-crisis, however Oliver rewrote this world, Team Flash did something awful to Hartley and he's a villain again. And not only does he have his Pied Piper powers channeled through his gauntlets, but he now has a canary cry or he has a sonic scream. So he's clearly not exactly the same character. Ben Skywalker, DougieFresh13 says, I'm still trying to figure out why they gave him a screen that makes him very boring now. His tech made him unique. Yeah, I was kind of wondering too why he had a Sonic scream / canary cry. Do they want him to be a next level villain with that? Because sometimes, they give villains a glow up, and sometimes they give them an upgrade because they think it's going to make them cooler or more interesting or more dangerous or whatever. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It has never worked with Dr. Light. They keep giving Dr. Light a new reincarnation and a new glow up and new powers and a new tech, and Dr. Light is still not any more interesting than he or she was before. Okay? Polly says, I'm not liking whatever the heck they did to them. This version just really isn't my thing and seems really off. And I'm going to say, I think they're trying to do the Dr. Light glow up thing. But they never really did the Pied Piper right from the beginning anyway, and they didn't. The version we saw on Team Flash is not nearly representative of the version in the comics, and the version in the comics is better. Now, he's definitely more goofy, but he's got more power. He's even more of a threat, even though he's more goofy personality-wise. But this guy they have playing Hartley is just not even a visual or physical fit for the Pied Piper. So they just may be trying to, again, give him a glow-up, but I don't know if it's working. Okay, Big Sal, Caesar's Wolfpack says, I preferred Hartley from before, though, sort of the anti-hero, and with tech, not meta powers. I'm going to say yes, his tech showcases his level of genius, and this makes things far too easy for him. Sonic scream and flight makes him a different kind of villain for the Flash. Okay? So that completely changes what's going on with Hartley based on what we see here. So, I don't know. Like I said, I'm still iffy. I don't think this guy represents, in terms of his physical presence, how I see Pied Piper in my mind based on how he's been drawn in the comics. But it's just personal preference. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the actor or whatever. It's just my personal preference. I like good book-to-screen translations. I want the character to look like they just walked off the pages of the book. Okay? Okay, let's move on to the next question because as always, time is flying. FlashChat is the fastest hour alive. Okay, question 5. Do I really need to point out once again that everybody in this episode is dead in the water without Caitlin Frost? Because it's so true. I've made this point over and over again. I did it in my written reviews. I've done it in FlashChat. I've done it on Twitter over and over and over again. Caitlin has saved the life of everybody on this show, and definitely everybody on Team Flash, multiple times. So if you look at what happens when Barry falls out, when Barry's in Grodd's mindscape, Caitlin sees him there. Caitlin rushes in, and everything that happens after that is because of her expertise. Her medical expertise is Frost, and her technical engineering expertise with the medical equipment to figure out what's going on with Barry, and then she figures out how to communicate with Barry so she can reach him, and then she's monitoring the brain waves and seeing what Grodd is thinking, what Barry's thinking, and then when they merge, and all that is Caitlin. Okay? So once again, she is invaluable to this team, and once again, she saves the bacon of everybody in the mix. Just amazes me that they can't give her any better arcs than they give her when she keeps proving how valuable she is to the team. I'm a little confused by how they write so that, we can see her value is showcased, but then her arcs don't really seem worthy of her value as a character. It's a little confusing. And I'm going to say I'm a little confused as to how they keep showcasing her value as a character, yet cannot write any better arcs for her. And I want you to notice that Iris being missing makes absolutely no difference on any front. Okay, and that's just the truth. Iris being gone makes no difference to what's going on. The A plot was Barry and Grodd, and that was basically Barry and Caitlin and Camilla and Chester. Heavy emphasis on the Caitlin, and Iris not being there made no difference. She didn't, she wasn't around to give him a pep talk. He was still able to figure out what was going on. She wasn't around to hold his hand or scold him or do what she normally does and just, be mean to him or be selfish about everything. And Barry was able to go through the adventure, deal with Grodd, deal with the Mindscape, basically because of Caitlin's help. It was a Flash Frost episode. And I want to point out in no uncertain terms that Iris not being there makes no difference. Barry has a full adventure without her. She makes no difference. But him and Caitlin, always the best team. Always the best team. Always the best team. I'm actually going to retweet that. Okay, and I'm going to say, I want you to notice that Iris being missing makes absolutely no difference. It's Caitlin that Barry works with. This is a Flash Frost episode. It shows how well they work together and make sure I'm not running out of characters here. The lack of need for Barry's wife. They are the true team. Okay, because it's just the truth. Sorry to, well, actually I'm not sorry. Sorry, not sorry. Whoever's offended by that, because it's true. You take Iris out the mix, you put her in a whole other dimension, you have her doppelganger run around. Makes no difference in the main action. Makes no difference. Barry's able to figure out what he needs to figure out with the help of Caitlin. Okay, and he's able to deal with Grodd and everything he did with the help of Caitlin. I can't stress it enough. Not Iris. Okay? So, just throwing that out there for the cheap seats. Okay, all right, let's move on to the next question. Okay, next question is question 6. Holy cow, it was so good to see Barry working on Gideon, finally. My question is, how has Gideon retained her memory of every pre-crisis event? Was she outside of time as well? Okay, so Gideon does the calculations to figure out everything that's been changed by a crisis, and it's in the trillions. Trillions. So I want to know, was, Gideon from the Wave Rider, was she outside of time? How was Gideon able to track everything that was going on pre-crisis in all those different Earths? And then once Oliver dies and makes Earth Prime and merges all that, and, the multiverse isn't what it used to be, how is it possible that Gideon somehow retains her memory of everything that happened? That's my question. Okay, let me read some of your answers. Polly says, I was wondering how Gideon knew things about post-crisis because it was never told exactly how she knew them. But I agree it was good to see Barry finally work on her. And I'm going to say it was just really confusing. The Paragons had their memories restored, but again, that was pre-crisis only. But Gideon knew the changes. So that means she has retained knowledge of the multiverse, both before and after. How? How has Gideon retained her knowledge of the multiverse, both before the crisis and after? How? How does Gideon know all the things that she knows? Because again, she was able to catalog trillions of changes, all the changes. So that also has to do with, that means she has some type of net or satellite or global connection on every Earth. And she had it cataloged. And then when Oliver created Earth Prime and changed everything and created this new multiverse, because this is still a multiverse. All of the characters are now on Earth Prime. You know, all of the CW heroes are now on Earth Prime. But this is still a multiverse. So that means Gideon had knowledge of all those different Earths. Because remember all the Earths they showed us during Crisis? Like Earth 89 with Batman 89 and Earth 66 with Burt Ward and Huntress running across, you know, the rooftops and the Titans Earth and Doom Patrol. That means that Gideon knew about all of that because this current Earth Prime is a merge of those Earths. It's not just like it was there. It's a merge of all those other Earths. That means Gideon somehow knows all that. If it's the Gideon unit from the Wave Rider, maybe I could buy that, maybe. But that's a lot of information, that's a lot of knowledge with no explanation as to how she really has it. I'm not sure I get that. I'm not sure I'm with it either. But anyway, okay. Let's move on to the next question because time is a-flying. Question 7. I told you Allegra was Nash's daughter or a doppelganger. How would you react to Nash if you were Allegra? Because I told you from the jump that's his daughter or someone that looks so much like his daughter, he can't even deal with being around her because he wants to reconnect with her, or maybe he wants to reconnect with what he lost. Okay? So, you know, I think he just needs to stop being weird. Just stop being weird about what he's doing and just come clean. Just be honest with her. And of course it's going to freak her out. It would freak anybody out. Wouldn't that freak you out if some dude you just met just keeps staring at you and hanging around you and finding reasons to be in the room with you, and then he tells you because you are so much like his child, he's obsessed with you? That is freaky. But remember that the Wells characters have a history of being obsessed. Because Harry was so obsessed with Jesse, it was bizarre. The level of obsession that Harry Wells had with Jesse was bizarre and unhealthy from the jump. But I'm saying there's a precedent then for the Wells character to be obsessed with their offspring. That's what I'm saying. So I think he just needs to come clean and tell her what's going on and let the chips fall where they may. Okay? Because sometimes that's the only way to deal with it. Chris Cofer fan says, I would be very shocked for one thing. And I'm like, right. Some weird dude obsessing over you and doesn't even tell you that you look like his child. Okay, Polly says, I don't know, but not the way she did. Lord have mercy, he's been through so much and his daughter is gone. I wrote this in a fan fiction I never published. Wasn't Nash's daughter, but same concept. Everyone needs a little mercy and hope. And I'm going to say, now that's a very interesting response because most people, I think, would be creeped out because I think they would. You'd try and have some compassion on him. Yeah. Fascinating. That is fascinating to me. And I'm not saying that's wrong or bad. That's a very mature outlook. But I don't know. Once again, some dude that is just makes up excuses to be in the same room where you are is already creepy. And then always, staring at you, catch him staring at you, and, he's obsessed with you on some level. And then you find out that you maybe look like his child. There's a connection there, but you're not sure what the connection is, and he won't just come out and tell you. I'm sorry. That would back me away from anybody. So I really admire what Polly's saying here, that she would have mercy and hope, because I would back all the way up off of that. I'm like, yeah, no, just stop talking to me. Unless you tell me the truth, then stop talking to me altogether, would be my reaction. Sorry, not sorry. Just keeping it 100. All right, question number 8. I loved Throwback Caitlin. I loved even more Thawne Wells. He's still the best villain. Do you think he'll be different when he comes back at this time? Now, as I said on last Flash Chat, as I've said many times, the last time we saw Thawne on a Flash episode was when Nora was dying, and Nora actually de-rezzed in Barry and Iris's arms. They lost their daughter. She just de-rezzed out of existence. I can't imagine what that would, do to a parent for such a thing to happen. And Thawne said during that episode, "I'll see you in the next crisis." So we were all assuming that meant that when we, did the Crisis on Infinite Earths episode, those 5 episodes, that Thawne would show up, but he didn't. So what I'm thinking now is that, maybe when Thawne comes back, it won't be the same Thawne. And when I say by the same, I mean it'll still be Eobard. But I mean, maybe something will be different about him. Maybe his powers will be different, or maybe his goals will be different. Maybe there's something going on. Because you know what I want to happen? I want to go to his future. We've never actually been to Thawne's future, the world that Thawne comes from, where he created himself as Reverse Flash and then came back in time to meet Barry. I would love to go to that future and see what's up with that. But I just have a feeling this is not going to be the same Eobard in terms of powers and in terms of goals. His motivation will still be the same. He still hates Barry and still wants to destroy him. But I think maybe his goals will have shifted this time around, I think. Okay, so let me hear what you guys have to say. Chris Cofer fan says, I agree, he's the best villain. He might be different when he comes back. I'm going to say, yeah, I think both his powers and his goals will have changed. He'll still hate Barry, but there will be a different focus in attacking the Flash. I do think there'll be a completely different focus. I'm just not sure what it's going to be. It would be cool if they did a little bit more of the real Flashpoint, but I think they're saving the real Flashpoint for the movie. So I think Ezra Miller's Flash is actually going to go through that. So it kind of remains to be seen what they do with this Barry when Eobard comes back, because he's going to have to find new and creative ways to torment Barry Allen. Okay? Polly says, I hope he's the same big bad. I'm going to slowly destroy you, Thawne. I'm tired of all these changes that make the show drab. Oh, okay. Well, I would certainly hope that Thawne is not drab, but as long as Kavanaugh is playing him, he can bring that menace very well, intensely so. Because, man, that first season, man, the menace, the snake in the garden, the snake in the midst that Kavanaugh brought to Thawne Wells was just unbelievable. That first season was just so unbelievable. And that's what I mean when I say, I'm going to say that to Polly. Also, I want to go to the future that Thawne is from once and for all. See his real origin. Because I do want to see his real origin. Okay? I want to see how Thawne taps into the Speed Force and then creates his own reverse Speed Force and then comes back in time. I know he used a time bubble, whatever. But I want to see, Thawne Begins. Okay? All right, let's move on to the next question, because time is a-flying. Question 9. I actually thought it was brilliant for Grodd to make Barry literally feel his pain. Do you believe Grodd's motives were sincere, or did you believe that Grodd's motives were sincere when you first saw him. Okay? And I will say, I kind of believed Grodd. I understand why Barry didn't, but we have the vantage point of being viewers, so we always know more than the characters know. But I did kind of believe Grodd actually would have trusted him Ryan Barry's place. But Grodd used an empathy tactic. He used a tactic to make Barry feel what he feels, which I thought was brilliant. I just thought that was just such an incredibly intelligent and amazing way for Grodd to get Barry's attention, but for them to build some type of bond that, and build some type of bridge that Barry could use to trust him. I thought Grodd is like, this is what my life was like, and this is why I acted the way I did, but I've changed. I just love that whole thing. Let me read what you have to say. Polly says, I love Grodd, always have. I, however, did not like this humanization of a telepathic gorilla unless he was playing with heartstrings to get out only. I found this people sappy and how to write off a villain. I'm going to say. That's interesting. I had the opposite response. I thought it was amazing for him to create empathy between he and Barry, because Barry had to trust him for his plan to work. They're saying Grodd's a mind manipulator. Manipulator. That's literally what he does. But he was telling the truth this time. So again, I can see why it would be, because remember that Barry listed all of his sins, Grodd's sins, and Barry talked about all the stuff that Grodd did last time he was there. Tried to take over Central City and brought all his fellow gorillas and tried to dominate man, and it was very ugly. Understood. But this time, I could just tell he was sincere, and I would have believed him myself, me personally, had I been Barry. Okay. Okay, moving on to question 10. I'm thinking right about now that Joe West should be realizing that's not his daughter. Agree or disagree? Because of the way that Iris snaps on Joe. Not the fact that she was upset, because we've seen that before, but the way she snapped, it was so aggressive and so disrespectful and so over the top towards her father. And I don't really remember seeing a lot of situations where Iris reacted that way. Again, we've seen her be upset, and we have definitely seen her disagree with Joe. But her kind of freaking out about being cut out, and her, because she looked like she was coming over that table at her dad. She looked like it's finna be on, how dare you cut me out, like, she was climbing over that table, and it was finna be on her and Joe. That was extremely aggressive, to the point where Joe was like, whoa, and I'm saying to myself, that should have been enough of a red flag, at least from my point of view. But again, remember, we know things that the characters don't, so that maybe not a fair comparison. But that would have been enough of a red flag for me if my kids were acting so out of character and they had a reaction that was just so over the top till I was like, where's that coming from? I would have been like, So I don't know. We don't remember that the characters in the show don't have any reason to understand what's going on, that Iris has been replaced, because they don't know anything about the mirror or the mirror universe, and Iris disappeared episodes ago, and they don't know that in the story. So I'm trying to be fair to them, because we always have more information than they do. So they have no reason to suspect that she's an evil mirror twin doppelganger. But I think that this reaction should be enough to make them expect that something else is going on with Iris that's more than meets the eye. Let's put it that way. So let me read your answers. Chris Kofer says, I agree with this. Polly says, this was my thought 100%. Plus, what cop would be fooled into leaving his computer open after persistent request? And I'm going to say, true, so true. We always have more info than the characters, so no reason to suspect anything mirror-wise. They don't know yet, but an over-the-top, out-of-control response should raise some red flags somewhere in Joe's mind, because they should, precisely because he's a detective, precisely because he's a cop, precisely because cops are trained to notice everything, notice, eye contact, speech patterns, voice patterns, tattoos, facial markings, your demeanor, if you're calm, if you're nervous, whatever it is that you feel. Cops are trained to notice that kind of stuff, so that should be such a huge clue to Joe. Again, the story characters don't know anything about the mirror. We know that as audience. They don't, so there's no reason to suspect that because they don't know that. But he should at least have some type of follow-up conversation with his daughter to see what's really going on with her. And yes, it was very stupid of him to leave his computer open like that. And I'm going to say, when it comes to Joe, seems like his cop training just shuts off. I'm sorry. When it comes to Iris, seems like Joe's cop training just shuts off, because it does seem that way. It seems like it does. Very much so. All right. Okay, question 11, I just have to say it. There's no way Flash doesn't beat Salvar on his own. There's just no way. I was so disappointed to see Flash doing the, hand vibration thing, the handshake, when he's got his super speed going, and then Salvar's just like, boop. He just backhands him, and no, Barry's faster than that. Barry it was just another one of those setups to where they wanted a specific ending, so they had to nerf the Flash's powers to make that ending happen. Because in story, it makes no sense. Boom, period, dot, the end, and there you have it. So let me read your answers. And I'm going to say what I just said. It was one of those situations where they needed a specific ending, so they nerfed Barry's powers to make it happen. Okay? Now I've got a feeling that a lot of people are going to be answering questions that I asked before, because that's what people sometimes tend to do on FlashChat, because I'm doing this stuff in real time as the questions post. But I think a lot of people may be like answering other stuff. So if I have time, I'll go back and see if we can catch that. As a matter of fact, let me see if any of that is true now, if I got any more answers to questions previously posed. Okay, Polly says to my question 9 that what Grodd did was amazing, but she meant I thought it was a ploy, and I didn't like that it was the end of Evil Grodd, which is who he is. I'm going to say, okay, that makes sense. Grodd should definitely stay villain, because he should. We don't have to redeem, that's been the theme ever since Spider-Man 2 with Doc Ock. Now we have to redeem every on-screen villain. Nobody can just be evil for evil's sake. Big Sal, Caesar's Wolfpack, says, I didn't believe Grodd had true intentions in the beginning, but that makes his future character arc very interesting. Will he be Gorilla City's savior, or will he be the Flash's universe Zod, where he absolutely loves his people, but will stop at nothing to succeed and protect? And I'm going to say they have to go with the second one if he's ever going to be used as a villain again. Okay? All right. Follow up all these questions here. Questions. Follow up on these questions. Questions. Follow up on these questions. Okay. Okay, Terrence Robinson on question 6, when I asked about Barry and Gideon, was a result of her Wave Rider being in the actual time stream during the crisis, or since she first belonged to Thawne, did he crisis-proof her? So I'm going to say, I said both of your, well, I said this answer on the live stream as well. If she was in the Wave Rider, but that means she had knowledge of every world. Before and after the merger. Okay, so I talked about that, about what that means. About the amount of knowledge that is. Okay? Oh man, we're down to the last question and we're down to 5 minutes. Okay. JLA Avenger, I'm back on question 4 about the Pied Piper. He says, honestly, I've always thought of him as one of the lamer rogues. Works a lot better as an anti-hero, helping the Flash. And I'm like, I'd rather see him fully evil any day. Because I would. Well, I just mentioned that we have too many villains being redeemed. We need some villains to stay villains. Okay? Okay. All right. All right, now let's go to our last question of the hour. Our last question is question 12. Even though I think it diminishes Barry, I actually like Flash merging with Grodd and giving him speed like in the comics. Did you like that or not? I actually did like that, even though I think Barry could have saved the day and escaped and beat Salvar all that on his own. But they wanted to do the ending where he merges with Grodd and Grodd has the lightning bolt on his chest and he got speed, because in the comics sometimes Grodd has super speed like Barry. He didn't always, but in some incarnations, in some stories, in some versions, Grodd is a speedster. So I'm sure they wanted to bring that element into the show. That's why they set up that contrived ending where somehow Barry couldn't beat Salvar, which makes no sense on any level. But anyway, let me hear what you guys had to say. Polly says, yes, it was cool. I thought that was from the comics. And I'm going to say what I just said on the live stream. Yes, in some incarnations, Grodd is a speedster. It changes the whole dynamic of their relationship. I also think that this was done to give Grodd a taste of speed, and next time he's going to want some permanently. I think this was done to set up Grodd having a desire to have to be a speedster and have speed powers, and so the next time we see Grodd, he's going to be trying to get Barry to give him that speed back or give him them powers back, or show him, what did you do to yourself to make yourself a speedster? Because I think that this was done again, that Grodd's got the hook in him now, speed. I can't imagine being able to move at super speed, and then you can't. But I've always loved super speed as a power. So that's what I think is going to go on. I think next time Grodd comes back, he's going to be a speed junkie. I figure that next time Grodd comes back, he's going to be a speed junkie. Because I really do. Okay, well, we are just coming to the end of our hour. FlashChat is always the fastest hour alive. So remember that that the edited video will be up soon on my webpage. I want to thank everybody that watched me live. Thank you, Vanjo, for everybody that you brought into the chat. Thanks for everybody that watched me live. Thanks everybody listening to the podcast. Thank you to everybody that's watching this video, my edited, uploaded video. So we're going to, there's a new episode tonight, and I believe there's a break. I'm sorry, I think they're on a break. If they're on a break, then I won't be back next week, because we're always a week after the new episodes. I don't think there's a new episode tonight, but we will be back a week after they have the next episode. So whatever you're enjoying this broadcast on, don't forget to check out the video on YouTube and come and join me live during a live stream, 1 p.m. Central Standard Time, and then come join me on Twitter so you can participate in the chat. Okay? It's the fastest hour live. Thank you for joining me on FlashChat, and I will see you next time. Subscribe, share, and ring the bell. And enjoy.